This is the Noninfectious Let-us, Part 2. We saw this morning the lettuce preparation. And of course that was let us draw near with a true heart. Okay, and then we talked all about that. The next lettuce is in the same passage, verse 23. Hebrews 10, verse 23. Hebrews 10:23. Let us persistence is what I call this. Hebrews 10:23. Let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he that is faithful hath that he is faithful that promised. He's saying right there what we already know. God is faithful, but we may not be. That's the whole point of this verse, is God's faithful, make sure you are. A lot of Christians don't. And this is something that is part of our responsibility. It's our responsibility to hold fast. He's going to hold our salvation, but we're supposed to hold fast our profession of faith. In Romans chapter 11. Romans chapter 11, verse 3. It's easy to not hold fast. The same thing happened with Peter on the water. He started looking around, and then suddenly we want to change our position. Don't change your position by looking around. When everything falls apart, so what? You just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. Romans 11, verse 3. Lord, they have killed thy prophets and digged down thine altars. Now that's a fact. That was true. It's Elijah. And I am left alone, and they seek my life. Well, that was true. But what saith the answer of God unto him? I have reserved unto myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Even so, then at this present time, here's Paul's kicking in again, even so then at this present time, also there's a remnant according to the election of grace. Somebody's going through the same problem you are, and they're doing well. They haven't let go. They're holding fast. That's what he's saying. So there's no excuse. That's our duty. Our duty is to hold fast. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. First Corinthians 10:13, there hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful. That's the same theme all the way through the Bible. You can count on it. God's faithful. Now, will you be faithful to him? That's the question. Here's how faithful he is. Who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able. Zero thing can happen in your life. Nothing that is beyond what you're able to bear. We tell ourselves this lie all the time. This is too much. I can't handle this situation or that. That's calling God a liar. Because he said right here, he'll not suffer you to be tempted above that you're able, but will with the temptation also make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it. In Ephesians 4, verse 14. Ephesians 4:14. Ephesians 4:14. He says, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. That is, they're going to get in your way so they can deceive you. What are they going to deceive you from doing? Holding fast. The things that God's revealed to you, the truth you've learned, whatever things God's already given you, hold on to them tight. Because somebody's going to lay in wait and try to deceive you. Hey, that book, it's got some mistakes in it, you know. It doesn't really mean what it's saying there. It's the very same thing the serpent did in the garden. He was lying in wait to deceive. He didn't tell her there's no such thing as God. He said, there's a bunch of gods. Won't you be one? He's sneaky. That's the way they're going to lie in wait to deceive. But we got to hold fast. He said right there that the problem is children are tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine and every change. He says in Proverbs, meddle not with him that's a man that's given to change. You gotta. That's not saying you can't change your position on something or God can't reveal more truth to you. But as a way of life, a person shouldn't be wishy-washy, always in and out and changing, and you can't figure out where they're standing. And that's done through people lying in wait to deceive. 1 Thessalonians 5. First Thessalonians 5:24. Faithful is he. There it is again. God's faithful. Every verse in the book is revealing that God is faithful. Faithful is he that calleth you, who also will do it. He's faithful, and he's going to continue to be faithful, and he's going to do whatever he says he'll do. However, that doesn't mean you are. We need to see to it that we are faithful. That's why the warning in Hebrews is hold fast. 2 Thessalonians 3. This is a very interesting verse. 2 Thessalonians 3, verse 3. But the Lord is faithful. We've never seen that before. It's all through there. The Lord is faithful. Who shall, now if the first part's a fact, the last part's a fact too. Who shall establish you and keep you from evil. That's his job. Think God fell down on his job?
No, sir.
He's keeping you from evil. However, that doesn't mean that you will keep yourself from evil. He's not going to overpower your will. When you decide I'm running to evil, God's not going to stop you. He didn't overpower your will to get saved. It's his will that none perish. But yet he's not overpowering their will. He's waiting for them to call on him. The same with this evil. He's trying to keep you out of evil. But if you want to, you can pursue it, and he's not going to stop you. In Galatians chapter 2, Galatians 2, verse 17. Galatians 2, verse 17. He says, but if, while we seek to be justified by Christ, that's what we're doing in our Christian life day to day when you're doing right, we ourselves also are found sinners, is therefore Christ the minister of sin? God forbid. Verse 18, for if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself a transgressor. Now that's what that holding fast is all about. Great, you've done right. Don't fall down. And if you fall down, get up so fast nobody notices you fell. And don't be rubbing your knee. Don't draw any attention to it. Here he says, this is what a lot of Christians do. They destroy the things they've built. They'll live good for a while, and then almost with aggression, they regress, tearing down everything that God has built. He says that is a transgressor. You should be a progressor. You should be moving forward, not backward. James chapter 1. James 1 verse 6. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. Isn't that the fact? You find them, that one minute they're hot, and the next minute they're cold, and then they're back hot, and then they're going to do good, and they're going to do bad. They're going to read their Bible through, and 15 years later they're still trying to read their Bible through. It's hot and cold and hot and cold. Get on board and stay there. It takes some character. Christians should have character. The world tries to instigate character through means that it really is not at their disposal. Only the Christian has the ability to have character because it's all in Christ. We just obey. In Revelation chapter 3. Revelation 3, verse 11. Here's why we have to hold fast. Revelation 3:11. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Now, God's not going to hold the things fast. You have to hold them fast. He's going to remain faithful, but you have to remain faithful yourself. Now, he says, if you'll do that, I'll give you a crown. This is an interesting study. I've not done it. I need to do it. It's on the list. You go through the Bible. You're not supposed to appear before a king without a gift. When you come into the presence of a king, you always offer a gift. We don't know anything about royalty down here because we don't have any kings or queens or anything like that. But if you lived in a country where they had kings and queens and they were absolute monarchs, you would know these things and you wouldn't dare attempt to go see the king without giving a gift. Well, it's going to be very apparent. We're suddenly going to understand all that when you stand before Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. And how are you going to feel up there if you don't have something to offer him? Here's a crown you can have. But that's just, he's given out good gifts that you can give back to him. You're going to get up there, and he's going to give you all these gifts for the things you've done, which we don't really deserve. But he's going to give them to us anyway. And then it's going to click all of a sudden, oh, I'm in the presence of the king. Here's something I can give him. Now, if you've not earned any crowns, you're going to feel pretty foolish up there. You're going to be shrieking in the back. Somebody stand in front of me. Don't let him look at me. We have the option to get a crown. It's by holding fast. We don't have many people holding fast. And the longer we get through this age, the church age, the closer. He says there's going to be a great falling away. And it's falling away. Just look around. It's fallen fast. I think by the time Jesus Christ comes back, or before the rapture, there's not going to be one single family left that's intact heading toward God. I don't think there's going to be. It's going to be father against mother, children against father, all of that, and I think it's going to get worse and worse. And then it's even going to ramp up higher in the tribulation. That's the purpose for Elijah showing up. He says in Malachi, he's going to turn the hearts of the father to the children and the children to the fathers. Okay, there's going to be such animosity. What there should have been naturally is natural family love. The family stays together. Well, it's going to reverse. The family hates each other. Can't stand each other. They get them a new family. You know what they're doing in the schools? They're cooking up fake families. The kids are producing their own imaginary family. That's my sister and that's my brother, and that's what they're doing. They get online and they cook up these virtual families. It's fake. But then the real family they don't want to have anything to do with. That's where it's hidden. He says that we're supposed to have patience, to hold fast. Holding something ain't easy. It's easy to grab something and put it somewhere. But if you hold it, imagine holding something all day. You're tired of holding it. You find over there in the Old Testament, fellas fighting with a sword, said he was holding that sword so long all day, killing people, that his hand wouldn't let go of the sword. That's the way we got to be. We've got to find something that's right and hold on to it, and don't let anybody pry it out of your hand. Don't let go of it. The next thing I see is we've seen two pieces of lettuce here. Lettuce preparation and lettuce persistence. The next one is lettuce ponder or lettuce provoke. Hebrews 10:24. Hebrews 10:24. and let us consider one another to provoke. Now, this is a tough word. This is a tough verse. This is a tough Bible.
Amen.
He says, let us consider. What does it mean to consider?
Ponder.
To ponder, to look at something and think about it. Now, what are we supposed to be looking at and thinking about in our verse?
Ways to encourage each other. And provoke you to good things.
What are you supposed to be considering?
One another.
One another. You should be looking at your other people. Your brother is your responsibility. You are your brother's keeper, according to the verse. You're to consider your brother. Then when you consider it, you'll know what you need to provoke him with. Here's what he says to provoke him with. 2 things. Love and good works. Now he says to provoke. Provoke is not a nice thing. There's 2 exceptions where you find provoke used in a good connotation. But every other time, provoke means you have pushed, you've shoved, you've demanded and prodded. Provoke not your children to wrath. Here he is, 1 Corinthians 16. First Corinthians 16:15. He says, I beseech you, brethren, you know the house of Stephanus, that it is the first fruits of Achaia, and that they have addicted themselves to something. Not cocaine, not marijuana. They addicted themselves to the ministry of the saints. That's the ministry he told us about in Hebrews. All Christians have this ministry, whether you're a, quote, minister or not. Your ministry is to find the people you see next to you and consider, do I need to provoke them to love more? Do I need to provoke them to more good works? Should I provoke them harshly, or should I provoke them by emulation? Being an example. What can I do that helps my brother? Because, believe it or not, the body helps the body. It's not me that helps the body. I mean, I should too. But all of us should help each other. He says in 2 Corinthians 9, 2 Corinthians 9, verse 2. 2 Corinthians 9:2. For I know the frowardness of your mind, for which I boast of you to them of Macedonia, that Achaia was ready a year ago, and your zeal hath provoked very many. So there he said, there's a way you can provoke someone by being an example. He says your zeal provoked them. So provoking someone doesn't always mean it's an exhortation. It doesn't always mean that you're going in there and waving your finger. Sometimes being a good example, he says their zeal provoked other people. And there's 2 things in our passage in Hebrews that people need to be provoked for. Love and good works. You get those 2 accomplished, you got this whole thing figured out. Look at Hebrews again. Hebrews chapter 10. Hebrews 10. He said in verse 24, we read it, that we're to provoke unto love and to good works. We're still in the same context. We're going to keep reading. Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, provoking them. And so much more as you see the day approaching. Now, that's the second advent he's talking about doctrinally. However, he's he's telling us here, as your end comes near, for us the end, the day that we're not going to be responsible for provoking anybody anymore, will be the rapture. For us, that'll be the day. But until then, we're supposed to be provoking one another to love and good works, through whichever means he shows us to do it. Verse 26. For if we sin willfully, oh man, he gone to preaching. He said the reason some of y'all need some exhorting is you're sinning and you know you're doing it and you're doing it on purpose. I'm not talking about some hidden secret sin that nobody knows about and it's some deep dark doctrine that you've never heard of before and I got to reveal it to you. You know you're doing it. Willful sin. If we sin willfully after that we've received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins, but a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation which shall devour the adversaries. Okay? This is going to be absolute 100% literal in the tribulation, but not now. Now it's going to be spiritual and maybe some part literal.
Right.
Literally, if we sin willfully after we've received the truth, there's no getting saved again. Once you're saved, you're saved. Now he's going to treat you as a son. And guess what? If you willfully disobeyed your parents, blatantly and rebelliously, you would just expect to get some fiery indignation. It's still going on. And we can't even foresee it in our own life. But the fact of the matter is this. When you choose on purpose to sin without asking for forgiveness, the two should go almost at the same time. You should sin, get so convicted about it, you repent of it immediately and get it right. Don't give any time to get it, to let God brew about it.
Right.
I mean, get it confessed real quick. Look at verse 28. He that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. Of how much sorer punishment, suppose ye, shall he be thought worthy who hath trodden under foot the Son of God, and hath counted the blood of the covenant wherewith he was sanctified an unholy thing, and hath done spite unto the Spirit of grace? For we know him that saith, vengeance belongeth unto me, that's God. I will recompense, saith the Lord. And again, the Lord shall judge who?
His people.
His people. Yeah, he's going to judge the heathen too. We know that. But he's going to judge his people too. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. He's talking the context to that fearful thing is his people, not the heathens. It's fearful for his people, the Christians, to fall into God's hands when he's mad and you've been willfully sinning. Whew. That's tough stuff. All right, conclusion, and we'll be done. But don't get too excited, it'll last a while. Hebrews 10. Hebrews 10, look at verse 32. 32. This he's going to recap here. He's already laid out the principles of how to get your lettuce garden growing. The things you're responsible for doing. And now, without renaming them, he's going to give you a conclusion, and it will include everything we've discussed. Verse 32. But call to remembrance the former days, in which after you were illuminated, ye endured a great fight of affliction. That's persistence. We don't have many people who are willing to endure a great fight of affliction. They have a great flight when there's affliction. When things get tough, when things aren't going your way, when you're not happy, don't take off for the hills. Be persistent. Hold fast. Verse 33. Partly, whilst you were made a gazing stock, both by reproaches and afflictions, and partly whilst you became companions of them that were so used. For you had compassion of me in my bonds, and took joyfully the spoiling of your goods, knowing in yourselves that ye have in heaven a better and more and an enduring substance. That's that pondering. They became friends of the other ones who were afflicted. That's what a church is. It's supposed to be. When you gather together, he said, don't forsake the gathering of yourselves together. Why? Because somebody's going to be pondering. He's going to be looking at you saying, oh, he needs to be provoked to love more. He needs to be provoked to good works more. You know what happens if you try that nowadays? I'm going to tell you what happens. You try that nowadays, and they say, he's picking on me, I'm leaving. You went to the doctor, you wouldn't say that. You went to the doctor, and he said, you got a cancer in there, let me cut it out. He pulls out the knife, he said, oh, you're so mean, you're so critical. How dare you pick on me? Well, I'm trying to fix you. Okay, that's the Bible. Verse 35. Cast not away, therefore, your confidence, which hath great recompense of reward, persistence. 36. For ye have need of patience, ain't that the fact? Yeah. That after you have done the will of God, you might receive the promise. Okay, that's preparation. Verse 37. For yet a little while, and he that shall come, and will not tarry. Now the just shall live by faith. That's preparation. Remember, we're supposed to have a heart full of faith. But if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. Persistence, don't draw back, hold fast. 39. But we, wonder who that includes. He's not out there by himself. He's not trying to do it on his own. But we are not of them that draw back unto perdition, but of them. He's recognizing a whole group of them. Every book he writes, he always includes at the end of it, hey, I'm here having a good time with so-and-so and so-and-so, and don't forget so-and-so, he left the party because he got backslidden.
Demons.
That's right. He recognizes that there's a group of this thing. It's a body. It's not one person. But of them that believe unto the saving of the soul. That's pondering. Now, the saving of the soul, that's something our soul needs saving until it's reformed in Christ Jesus. You're saved, your spirit is saved 100% perfect because you have the Holy Spirit. That doesn't need any improving.
Amen.
But your soul does. The who you are is. That should be changing to be more and more like him. And he says one way that soul will become saved, is being reformed, is this formula he's just given us. Hebrews 6, go back to Hebrews 6. Hebrews 6 verse 1. He says, therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Christ. Okay, the basic principles of the doctrine of Christ is you're lost, you need him to get saved. Okay, got that principle. He did all the work. Now it's time for us to go cultivate a garden. Verse 10. For God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love. You know, the thing we're supposed to be provoking and being provoked, which ye have showed toward his name, in that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister. You cannot fulfill this verse if you've decided I'm anti-church establishment. There's a lot of them that do. I don't know why it is, but it's a fact, and I'm going to make some people mad with this, but that's just too bad. I find some good Bible believers who get out of church and stay out of church. How are you helping the body? Get in there with the body. That's what we're meant to be, a body. He says in verse 11, and we desire that every one of you shows the same diligence to the full assurance of hope unto the end. Remember we talked about the assurance of faith, the full assurance of faith. That's a theme that runs all through the Bible. The main work has been done. Jesus Christ died. But there's a whole lot of plotting and planning we got to do if his garden's going to produce. He provides the seeds, we till the ground. And that's our message for tonight. That's the non-infectious lettuce. All the things that anytime you see the Bible say "let us," that means you get your work gloves out and get to work.
Time to work in the garden.
That's it.